Hi there! Let's use Wyckoff method to help us visualize where SHIB is at and where it's heading to. Also, if you're new to my sessions, here are the 3 key takeaways you can expect from the session. So let's start with the weekly chart for SHIB. After previous few weeks of decline, currently SHIB is continuing seeking the level where the spring will eventually end up with. A spring for Wyckoff analysis is a low point that's even deeper than the selling climax itself. We have experienced this for SHIB back in 2023, around the summertime. Okay? So, looking at what happened over here, it is still continuing its journey towards that direction because this wick above the blue key level of 89, I'm skipping the 5 leading zeros, so there's 89 level, there is clear rejection from that point. Alright, when we get to the daily chart, we'll be able to see more detail. But the key thing is, with the previous buying from the bottom, which 2 weeks ago, the October 10th low was tested, it was even lower, and there were people buying the dip, but this week, it's going further down. So, while people thought that it's probably a safe level to buy, this week it kind of confirms that it probably may not be. Because if we look back to 2023, we're still 2 key levels from that lowest point. Okay, the bottom edge of this long-term playground zone was actually at around 68. Okay, so here, this long-term playground zone, this white box, actually covers about 70-80% of the time that SHIB has been trading within that range. Alright, and now that we are heading towards the bottom of the range. So having these as the backdrop, and while this wedge has finished its job, I want to borrow one line just to help us see whether there's any references we can take from these lows. Alright, if we take reference from the selling climax in the second test, let's do this as a rough reference. That's where these guys are pointing towards. This intermediate level here, that I think this is more relevant than that trend, because when we get to the daily chart, we'll be able to see the trend channel boxes. This level, with all these candlesticks as reference, so by that I mean these bunch of wicks, these wicks, and the head and tails and wicks as well. So at least 4 bunches of candles has indicated to us why both October 10th and 2 weeks ago the test dropped at that level. I'm not surprised to see this week, if it comes further down, it will take a pause over there as well. But that's for the daily chart, and while we're touching on it, let's see what's going on here. So November 4th and 5th exactly stopped at that line and found support. So there were people buying when the price touched this yellow dashed line that we've just drawn. Currently, we're still above it. There's no reason why it cannot come down to test this line again. Just that when we look across, it still kind of makes sense that this is an intermediate level between these 2 blue levels. However, what has just happened in the past 3 to 4 days is that the trading of SHIB has dropped from the stronger side, meaning upper half of the channel box, to the lower side. And there are key resistances. You can see the wicks the heads of the candles ended or started lower than the center line for 3 consecutive days. So which means it's absolutely changing. So we are expecting to see the price come down to challenge the bottom edge of the channel box. And coincidentally, that's also the key light blue level of around 78. Okay? So it can happen in such a way, bounces off, challenge the blue key level again. Remember today it got rejected, okay? And then that's getting very close to the ceiling, the channel ceiling, and it can come down to trade. And that, if it successfully stays above the light blue key level, by the end of this year or the first few days of January, there's one breakout opportunity. Okay, that's not the best scenario. That's like a neutral scenario. It's trading sideways from where we are now. For positive case, it bounces back from the yellow dashed line, back into the triangle above, this triangle. Alright, let me remove the previous one so it's easier to see. If it trades over here, this time point near the first 10 days of December, there is an opportunity for it to break outside of this channel. So that's the very key move before it can goes back up to challenge higher level. Meaning in the weekly time frame, it finishes off the spring, show us a sign of strength that's very high compared to where we are now. The yellow key level of 154. Remember where we are now, right? We are at about half of that level. Okay, that's where the sign of strength were. Just July and May. Okay, that's the first step we hope to see. And then best if it accompany with some horizontal trading setting foot for the climb upwards. Or if some great news come out that pushes the entire crypto market, that can be just, a few candlesticks, few white candlesticks upwards, and it's boom, the next distribution cycle. These two examples that I just mentioned is not hypothetical. Look at what happened over here back in the fourth quarter of 2024 after the sign of strength, some horizontal trading, and then it went to the buying climax for the end of that year. This is the second example where in 2 weeks it shot up to the buying climax. There's no higher level sideways trading. Okay, so you can see a lot of these patterns in different charts for altcoins or even other assets. Alright, so this is the picture for SHIB. It's still seeking the lowest point. If the volume comes down, like if it continues to shrink and no more selling from this point, best if we can see some red crosses, something like this at this level, meaning it stabilizes and then recovers, exit this downtrend. That's the best positive sign that we can hope for. Alright, thanks for joining me for this SHIB session. See you in the next one.